everyone, let's talk about Fat Thor! Ooh, look how fat he is! He's so stupid because he's fat! Ooh, he's so fat, it's so funny! It's so funny because he's so fat!
April 2019 saw the release of Avengers Endgame, a film that is the culmination of 10 years of build-up thanks to a good marketing strategy called the Marvel Cinematic Universe. When the film was released in theaters, nerds came so hard that, even now, the cleaning staff still hasn't wiped away all the spunk. The film was also a massive box office hit, becoming the highest grossing film ever. So, of course, every shareholder at Disney came so hard. But since they come every time one of their films entered the top 10 of highest grossing films, they had the benefit to develop a generator running entirely on spunk. Also a win for them is that they all love money. Not only were they able to save on their electricity bills, they also hogged the patent so other nerds can't make their own spunk generator without risking a hefty fine. Greed! So you can understand Endgame was quite a hit. Yet it's not a flawless film as you would believe. Because Avengers Endgame came with massive problems. And one of those problems I wanted to highlight is the depiction of Thor. In Avengers Endgame, Avenger Thor got depressed after what he believed was his own fault. Half of the population got wiped out of existence when Thor had a good chance to stop it. After 5 years, a damaged Thor is still wallowing in self-pity and got fat. And honestly, that's fine. One of the forms depression takes is excessive eating. You try to fill yourself up with food for the sake of feeling something else than that gnawing hole of emptiness and sadness inside of you. Being depressed can cause you to eat more, which in turn makes you gain more weight and become obese. Chris Hemsworth's portrayal of a depressed Thor is factually accurate. He is ridden with guilt and PTSD, so it's not hard to believe that he went into a downward spiral and sought comfort in food and escaping reality by playing video games constantly. But whilst Thor's portrayal is very emotional and recognizable, the way he's framed is problematic. And this has everything to do with a problem that society and media still barely address.
Welcome to the horrible world of fat shaming!
Number 1. The origin of fat phobia. So, what is fat shaming exactly? Well, it's rather self-explanatory. Someone's fat and then you point at them saying how fat they are. And then everybody laughs. Because fat people are funny, because they're fat. Get it how funny our bodies are? But where does this idea exactly come from? Why are people with fat bodies mocked? The answer is surprisingly racist. The roots to fat phobia go back to colonialist times. Colonizers had this image in their head of black people being big monsters, and fat phobia was one of the traits that got incorporated within this racism. Thus, fatness became a trait of black people or the monster regardless of their size. By the way, these stereotypes are still prevalent, unfortunately. Ronald Reagan mocked the social programs in the US during his presidency and created the mocking stereotype of the welfare queen, where women would allegedly misuse welfare payments. Eventually, this depiction here did stigmatize black single mothers. And who could forget that one racist cartoon of Serena Williams from 2018? So, because whites thought black people were inferior to them, they wanted to create as much distance, read ostracization, from them as much as possible. The beauty norm or at least according to white supremacy, has been reduced to slim and fit looking, because women want to distance themselves from the monster. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yet that didn't stop them from appropriating black bodies. Sarah Baartman was a slave who had to showcase her naked body for the pleasure of the British. There's a whole story about her life, but I can't go into much detail because otherwise this video will become too long. I recommend looking more into it. It's a harrowing tale of slavery, humiliation and racism, as she was treated like an animal even after death. She has her own Wikipedia page, so it's not like there isn't any excuse to look more information about her. She was known for her large butt, which in the eyes of the white people made her a curiosity. She was treated not like a human, but as a circus oddity. Her body became the foundation for scientific racism, as one scientist, Julien Joseph Viré, used it to validate racial stereotypes. These theories are thankfully disproven now. But it were not only the scientists who were interested in her. The exhibitions where she was almost naked for everyone to see had a huge impact on fashion. At the time, women emulated her big butt by putting material on their dresses to make it look bigger. It's like white supremacists don't have any awareness at all. Speaking of, let's talk about how the Nazis treated fatness. The national body was this notion that everyone in the country should devote themselves to the growth of the nation, and anyone who was not able to serve their body was unfit for the nation. Obesity was a danger for the so-called Aryan body. That's why Jewish women were mostly associated with fatness, because even at that time obesity was seen as a form of laziness. Modern neo-Nazis use fat shaming as a form of mockery. Heather Heyer-Smaller got accused of being fat by the Daily Stormer, whilst the newspaper was boasting about raising awareness of obesity. But it's not racists who are at the fault. Even to this day, this stigma is being held. We berate and mock people for being fat, even if we don't know we're doing it. We have this obsession with staying healthy and fit, whilst fat people are seen as lazy or dumb. And nobody likes being fat, right? I mean, it's bad for your health, isn't it? Yeah, thanks, doctor. Just make people feel more insecure about themselves. It's not something we've heard over and over again, and it's not like we chose to be fat. Sometimes it's just genetics. But the stigma around fat people has persisted for so long, we overlook the fact that many eating disorders are linked with traumatic life experiences, both anorexia and obesity. In fact, saying that you're obese makes a person feel ashamed and much worse about the condition they're in, which in turn causes them to eat even more. It has also to do a lot with the environment you grow up in, the opportunities you have for doing physical activities, or the access to healthy food. Poor children are more likely to get fat, not because they eat a lot, but because their parents have to buy the cheapest thing available, which often means processed or junk food, because healthy food is too expensive. And believe it or not, there's a thing called weight discrimination. Fat people who are able for the job won't get hired because they are fat. Fat people are excluded from getting a job promotion or just outright fired because they are fat. Doctors are more likely to give fat people lifestyle change recommendations, losing weight, do more physical activity, than people with a normal weight. But isn't being fat unhealthy? Don't we have a measuring system for determining our weights? It's funny you should mention that, because even its own inventor said it was bullshit. The Belgian Adolphe Quetelet created the Body Mass Index, or the BMI, which we still use today. In 1985, the US National Institutes of Health introduced BMI to measure health risks through body weight. But the BMI is seriously flawed and doesn't take into account factors like the difference between body fat and muscles, pregnant women, or women in general because they generally have more body fat, or people over 65, meaning they are naturally over or underweight. Hell, minorities have it worse because the system is rigged against them. Black people, for example, are automatically overweight because they have a denser bone structure.
Well, I guess you can leave it to the Belgians to ruin the lives of black people.
I have to stop here because this video would divert from its main subject and I'm honestly not the right person to talk about it. In the description you will find a link to a video from Millie Jane about neoliberal fat shaming. They talk in detail about their own experience and how the current system has incorporated fat shaming without questioning about why we do it. I'm also going to recommend the book Fearing the Black Body by Dr. Sabrina Strings. She wrote about the connections between racism and fat phobia. I haven't had the chance to read the book myself, but she did talk about it during interviews. Again, in the description you can find an episode of the podcast The Nod, where she talked about some of the topics I discussed. I'll also include episodes of Body Kindness, where Sabrina Strings is interviewed. Fat phobia and the ties with racism are such a rabbit hole I cannot do it justice, so I urge you to look for more information on this topic by people who are better equipped at explaining this than I can. So let's move to another topic, shall we? Number 2. Fat shaming in the media. Fat characters in media are mostly portrayed in a negative daylight. They are surrounded by bad stereotypes. And here's a list of some of those harmful stereotypes. Fat people are dumb. Fat people are lazy or don't have any willpower, which is why they don't want to work out and got fat in the first place. Fat people are greedy and selfish, which makes them the bad guy as a stand-in for greediness. Fat people only think of food. Fat people are unpleasant. Fat people are clumsy. Fat people are cowardly. I wouldn't be surprised if I forgot some, mostly because I couldn't find a comprehensive list. I'm not saying that all fat characters encompass these stereotypes, but most of them are recurring and done to death. So let me give you some examples. Homer, Chief Wiggum, Ralph, Barney, Peter and Chris Griffin, Obelix, Cartman, Garfield, Big Mama, most of Rebel Wilson's roles, Chunk from the Goonies, Fat Bastard, any Kevin James role in a Happy Madison production, Fred Flintstone, the Rexacoricofallapatorians from Doctor Who, the Absorbaloff from Doctor Who, that couple from the Voyage of the Damned episode from Doctor Who. Remember that Doctor Who episode that joked about her obsession with weight loss? Ursula, Russell, all the fat people in Wall-E, Bowser, Chowder, Snorlax, Fatso from Casper, Soos, Maui, Bebop and Rocksteady, Eddie Murphy, Patrick, Hagrid, Wario, Majin Buu, and Hunk from Voltron. Now, I'm not saying that every character was aimed for fat shaming, or that the creators had bad intentions when conceiving them. Some are. But these stereotypes are so ingrained in society you don't even notice you're using them, even if you're a good person.
And it's especially hurtful when it's displayed in children's media.
Children are very susceptible and learn from these negative tropes that fat people are funny, because they're fat. In Voltron, whenever the character Hunk appears, he always makes a comment about food.
Keith, make me a sandwich, stat! If it ain't perfect, it ain't coming out of this kitchen, people! Sauce me! Now you're getting it!
What's everybody thinking about?
Zarkon. Calzones. Heck, yeah, I'm thinking about calzones, okay? I mean, does it always have to be about Zarkon? He's a bad guy, we're trying to defeat him, I get it. I'm hungry.
This is a common fat shaming trope, meaning kids learn from an early age that fat people are obsessed over food. Hunk is also the coward and the least intelligent of the group. Yeah, I know it gets less in the last seasons, but that's too little too late. I'm angry at the creators of Voltron. Most of the crew worked on Avatar: The Last Airbender, a series so meticulously executed when it comes to representation. There's no fat shaming in Avatar. Oh wait, there's a fat cowardly character in the comics. Oh. It's not a recent trend. The character Chunk from the Goonies falls into the same tropes, eating a lot, thinking about food and being cowardly. It's a stereotype that's been going on for years. Luckily, people try to improve society to become better. Thanks to the arrival of the internet, people who used to not have a voice suddenly can speak up about injustices. Minorities like people of color, queer people, but also people with disabilities and fat people. And the positive aspect is how much these problems get highlighted. And we can hope creators will think differently of inserting fat people as the butt of a joke. Hopefully we get more progressive shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine to incorporate those elements into the show. Oh wait, there's an episode where Terry eats a lot and gets in a fat boot. And there's a separate page on the Brooklyn Nine-Nine wiki for Fat Terry. It can be as bad. Oh, I also forgot about Hitchcock and Scully. There are also organizations advocating for body positivity. One of the most outspoken advocates in body positivity is Jamila Jamil. Yes, I know picking a normal-sized woman is a bit problematic, but Jamila Jamil would never...
What's the most attractive thing about the opposite sex?
It's gotta be like their eyes, the way they look at you. You can say so much with your eyes.
You can have a fatty, but he's got good eyes. And
Yes.
he's in. Fine, brilliant.
Look, I'm sorry for being so cynical sounding. I'm not against the progress everyone made. But it's just that going through all this stuff I realize how normalized fat phobia is. And especially how fat people are portrayed in the media. Stories are a reflection of ourselves and society, and when stories aimed at a mass consuming audience have harmful messages, not going to have an impact. But capitalism doesn't care about the messages it wants to spread, because there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. Which brings us finally to Marvel. They don't care that they made a film starring a woman whilst not firing an abuser who threatened his ex, or made a film about the celebration of blackness, African culture and Afrofuturism, which is then promoted by the CIA. Marvel doesn't care about progressiveness, it only cares about making the big bucks. And it doesn't care if they use messages that are harmful to society as long as money comes down the pipeline. Which brings us finally to Thor.
But before we continue, just a quick review of what I thought of the movie itself.
Avengers Endgame is a very mediocre film made by a very mediocre white man, written by very mediocre white men for an audience consisting mostly of very mediocre white men. Okay, let's finally begin. Number 3. Yes, I'll talk about Thor now. When Avengers Endgame came out, of course there was going to be the high amount of buzz, among which was the fact Thor was being fat-shamed. Now, I haven't seen the film when it came out in theaters,
Because I don't care about Marvel and neither should you.
so I have no idea how audience reactions were. Although there are lots of articles talking about the issue at the time. And it isn't hard to see why. Like I said previously, his depression is accurate. Thor comes across as someone who is damaged by PTSD and failure. The emotional moments feel genuinely heartbreaking.
Bring him back. Stop. Stop, Jay. I know you think I'm down there wallowing in my own self-pity, waiting to be rescued and saved, but I'm fine, okay? We're fine, aren't we?
Oh, all good here, mate.
I can't do this. I can't do this. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't have come. It's a bad idea.
Come here.
No. I think I'm having a panic attack. Just let me do it. Just let me do something good, something right. No.
But then we get to the other side of the spectrum. Out of all the Avengers, Thor is framed as the punching bag. The comedy is played at his expense, and they are jokes we're meant to laugh at. I mean, put a laugh track under it and it wouldn't be unfitting.
We need you, pal.
There's beer on the ship.
And what kind?
Inside there, Lebowski.
Is he asleep? No. I'm pretty sure he's dead.
I love you.
I need to stop.
What do you think is coursing through my veins right now?
She's with?
It's not hard to see why these jokes are made. Thor is the only Avenger who's fat. All the other Avengers are able-bodied, strong, muscular men. Yes, I know there are women superheroes in there as well, but these are films that celebrate and uphold the hegemonic masculinity. Thor is the only one who gained weight from his ordeal, so it's not hard to connect this with fat shaming. I guess this is the part of the video where I'm met with skepticism. So let's analyze the way the other Avengers are framed with their grief after the 5-year time skip. The first one we're introduced to is the Ubermensch himself, Captain America, who's holding counseling groups for people who have lost their loved ones. Black Widow on the other hand tries to lose herself in her work as a way of coping with the immense impact of losing half the population. Ant-Man on the other hand doesn't have time to mourn. He's bewildered after a surprising 5-year absence. Hawkeye got on a racist binge and started killing Mexican and Japanese people in their own country. But even that is framed as sad and you just have to feel sorry for the poor guy. I mean, look at those poopy eyes. Hell, even Thanos is framed in a more favorable light. Before the time skip we see him walking through the field, touching the weed, being one with nature. He feels calm, a man at peace with himself. He leads a humble existence now, enjoying the simpleness of what life has to offer. The film even hints that his way of eradicating half of the population worked in the long term.
You know, I saw a pod of whales when I was coming over the bridge.
In the Hudson.
There's fewer ships, cleaner water.
So why does Thor, who's one of the good guys, get framed in such a humiliating way? Before we are reintroduced to him, we see the comically amount of empty beer barrels, and when we see him he's playing video games, yelling at gamers and complaining about cable. And it's not in a look what grief and trauma have done to him way, but in a kind of look how silly he's acting kind of way. So why does Thor get this treatment and all the other Avengers get more respect? Because he's fat, that's just it. But I hear you guys already coming towards me to defend this poor little indie film from a massive multi-million-dollar franchise from a billion-dollar corporation that owns 27% of the film industry. Thor is a more comedic character after Thor Ragnarok. Ah yes, Thor Ragnarok, that super hilarious film.
I love you, my sons. Look at that. Remember this, please. Home.
And if I remember, Infinity War had some really great comedic moments as well.
Thanos is just the latest in a long line of bastards, and he'll be the latest to feel my vengeance. Fate wills it so.
Mm-hmm. And what if you're wrong?
What more could I lose?
I told you.
You die.
You should have gone for the head.
Look, just because a character is more comedic in tone doesn't mean that he shouldn't be treated with some form of dignity, or with any empathy for his situation. He doesn't get his beloved muscles back during a training montage, so he's still as fat as before. True, but then I learned that the writers originally intended for Thor to have his six-pack back at the end after a montage. That's already bad. And then I found out that Chris Hemsworth has his own fitness app called Center, which predictably capitalized on Endgame. So yeah, even if Thor didn't end up with his beloved six-pack again, it comes across as disingenuous. I really doubt the sincerity of the filmmakers when including a fatter version of Thor. After all, these are the same guys that introduced the first LGBTQ+ character, played by a straight man. And not just any straight man, but one of the directors himself. As a way of signaling to the queer community that we see you, we hear you. Instead of, having an actual queer character being played by an actual queer actor. But where would they find those? I don't care about the Russo's other works than the MCU. But I do people now. And it's not only the Russos or the writers who are to blame. Chris Hemsworth had some input in shaping the character too. He's the one who suggested Thor stayed fat at the end of the film. But why though? From what I could gather, Hemsworth saw this as an acting opportunity, playing someone who's different from how he's usually shaped. So he wants to play someone that's pretty unconventional from the norm. That's basically what any actor wants though, play a challenging role. But that brings forward a lot of issues. For instance, Chris Hemsworth is not fat, and even didn't try to gain weight. Instead he donned a fat suit. Now, the thing about a fat suit is that, well, it makes the actor look fat. But it's mostly worn by skinnier actors or fat actors to look even more fat. And it's mostly done for comedic effect. It's always comedic effect. In behind the scenes stuff you can read how the directors say Chris brings out the emotional complexity of Thor through his comedic background. And there's this idea that comedians can be better actors because they have more challenges than regular actors. They have to make the audience laugh, work their physical bodies more, take note of the intonation of their words, all to get a good reaction from their audience. But if Thor's misery comes from a comedic standpoint, doesn't that come across as insincere? What's more, fat suits are discriminatory for actual fat actors. And there are fat actors who are willing to work, but then they go pick a skinny actor and don them into a fat suit. I don't know if you remember this controversy, but a lesser known actress called Scarlett Johansson was set to play the part of the real life Dante Tex Jill, a trans man. When news broke out, there was a big backlash from the LGBTQ+ community saying why a famous cis woman shouldn't play the role of a trans man whilst there are struggling trans actors who are better suited for it. Johansson previously got under fire for playing the Major in Ghost in the Shell, a film based upon a Japanese property set in Japan. The filmmakers got accused of whitewashing for not casting an Asian actress. These are legit grievances, of course, but why is there no outcry for fat representation when fat suits are being used? Considering how representation is such a high topic, why are fat people being excluded? I mean, these days it's practically unthinkable if minorities aren't represented properly without getting any backlash. You would let a white actor play a black man, or a white actor play an Asian man, or a straight man playing a gay character. And if that's not bad enough, Chris Hemsworth is receiving praise for playing a fat guy, whilst he is not fat. It's insulting that Marvel is actually getting praise for representation and diversity, even though what they're doing is just the bare minimum. But I can hear already people defending this again. Thor is an established character played by a recurrent actor. It would have been weird to change him, so Chris Hemsworth needed to put on the fat suit. Yes, Chris Hemsworth is Thor's main actor, but then why didn't Chris Hemsworth fatten himself up? You hear these extreme stories of how actors prepare themselves for their roles, even gaining weight for a role. So why couldn't Chris Hemsworth? I mean, it's not impossible to lose weight. It's not like he had a fitness app which he could use after filming to get back in shape. Although that would have been awkward if the program didn't work and people think it's a total scam. Boy, wouldn't that be ironic. And then general audience had to react to this as well. Some either embrace Thor whilst others still make fun at his size. I feel bad for the people who actually find a kinship in Thor. In the film there's a scene where Thor reaches for his hammer which lands in his hand, saying that despite his depression he's still worthy. It's a nice scene and I'm sure a lot of fat people found themselves in that moment. But then it's undercut by his mom saying he needs to eat a salad.
And eat a salad.
It is kind of touching and a lot of people feel seen. Yet Chris Hemsworth is not a fat actor. He still has his abs even though they are hidden behind the suit. And the cultural reaction towards Thor is still ridiculing and joking about his weight. So does it really matter if you feel seen whilst others don't see you? Whilst your body is still an object for jokes and slurs? Why does it matter in that case? The way Thor is being perceived by society is really telling to me. Thor has been dubbed Fat Thor and I didn't want to call him throughout this video. I hate it, it's like people saying he's not Thor, he's Fat Thor. Thor can't be Thor anymore. Fat Thor is a different entity than regular Thor, even though it's the same person. And that's sad, like a person is stripped away from their identity. You're not a person, you're just a lump of flesh. You're nobody. You're not defined by your actions, but by your weight. Thankfully, the Russo brothers rectified it by giving Thor an official name. I thought it was Thor to begin with. No longer is he called Fat Thor, but now he's Bro Thor.
To be fair, what did you expect?
Number 4. What did you expect? There is a reason why I chose this topic for my video. I am fat, and I've heard multiple times how bad it is for my health, and how I need to lose weight, how I have to change my diet, do more exercise. I get to hear this from my own parents, and as you guessed, it makes me feel worse about myself. Seeing fat people being stigmatized or mocked in media says one thing to me. Society thinks you're ugly, you don't have a place here. And the worst part is, I have done a lot of fat shaming in the past, especially as a teenager. Because like I said, it's so ingrained in our society you don't notice that you're doing it or partaking in it yourself. It isn't helped by how pop culture media still perpetuates the impossible beauty standard. A common joke towards the channel CW is that the cast of any program is composed of supermodels. But Marvel is guilty of doing this as well. Men are absolute beefcakes, women are hot. And the only superhero who got fat gets ridiculed. Oh, there are body positive superheroes, in comics at least. The only one who doesn't have a conventional standard beauty body in Marvel books is Squirrel Girl. But some other artists erase her waist more. Sure, she's much more plus size in the animated series, but it doesn't help that the actress who was going to play her in the MCU is conveniently attractive as well. Some people say they feel seen by Fat Thor, just as many women felt seen by this scene. But these are only the barest of breadcrumbs. Marvel isn't going to give us anything unless it makes a profit. But why should we look towards superhero films for representation? Yeah, I know they're big and all, but why look at something that's not going to give it to you unless you give it all your money? Why waste time and money on something that's never going to respect you? Wouldn't it be better to seek it elsewhere? And since Marvel can't be stopped, I wouldn't be surprised if they made more fat jokes later on, especially now Thor is in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And I can't shake this feeling Natalie Portman replaced Thor because he doesn't fit the beauty beefcake standard Marvel created anymore. The truth of the matter is we live in an ableist society. Able bodies and brains are the norm, which society is based upon. We won't be treated with any respect, we just stay a joke, no matter how much we speak up. Well, at least it's just this one. I'm glad there aren't any other big Marvel films perpetuating fat shame.
Okay, a little bit of a gut, perhaps from conventional warping.
Oh yeah. I was way flatter before I warped.